Hi, Justin. This is Ira, and I'm uh, sharing here my read along comments as I go through your statement of belief about good argument. I hope these will be helpful to you as you move from the statement of belief to your more thoroughly or rigorously articulated essay defining good arguments in digital contexts. As you move from the first to the second, I hope that you'll feel free to make an appointment, come talk with me about different ways of doing that. Okay, so starting right off, I think you set the tone by acknowledging that there's lots of ways that people can think about appeals, and you specify that your sense is based on commonalities, common ground, connection. So I noticed even before we get into the fuller definition, this sense of consubstantiality is a word we use in rhetoric. The sense of being substantially together, common ground, commonalities, connection, etc. Seems like it's a really important part of how you think about good argument. And so as you move forward, I'll really encourage you to have in mind what are the ways in which commonalities happen for better and for worse. What are the ways in which commonality or common ground, consubstantiality generally in argument can be part of something you'd see as good argument and also potentially part of something you'd see as not good argument. So the way that you articulate this broadly is first there's a connection and then there's factual argumentation. What factual argumentation does is it solidifies the writer's main idea. And so this is a way of thinking about good argument that's really focused on the effects. The effect is to solidify a main idea. And then from here, the rest of your essay is largely devoted to tracing out exactly how does this happen. So one of the things that in the next assignment, I think this is totally fine here, but one of the things in the next assignment I want to press you to do further is to really think about, as you're tracing out how good argument, as you understand it, happens, to say a little bit more about what it is. What makes good argument good, as you understand it? Why is it good? Why is this mixture of things good? This appeal to logic while also using a manipulative aspect with a hint of flexibility. So you start off here. It's all about becoming relatable. And I do want to challenge you just a little bit here. So you say this helps the reader or listener to listen more objectively. And I wonder if objectively is necessarily, I'm not going to quibble about word choice in general, but I wonder if objectively here is more than just a word choice, but maybe in sort of a misleading framing. When we relate with each other, we're almost by definition not being objective, we're being subjective, right? We're emotionally connected, we're connected with other subjects. And so I'd be interested to know a little bit more about the tension between the objective and the subjective as you understand these. And then you talk about how you did this in your Reddit response. And I wondered, though, like there's a kind of a competitiveness or combativeness that runs through the way that you talk about it, like my final attack, exposing a vulnerability, and so forth, which is fine. I mean, it's your definition. But it's interesting. And so I wonder if you'd say a little bit more, because it makes it seem like you see argument as about winning or beating the other. It's about attacks and vulnerabilities. And that seems like it's in some ways at odds with the initial frame, which is about commonalities and being together. I like the way that you talk about relatable statistics. I think it's a really interesting, point to make, is that none of us have the capacity to take in the full frame of possible facts and evidence. There's so many different pieces of reality, whether it's understood in statistical terms or it's understood as simple facts. There's so many different pieces of reality that could be brought to bear in any given argument that we're always, in a sense, falling short of the total possibility. We're always focused on some portion of things. At the same time, I wonder, so you say numbers alone don't convince people. It takes context and a full appeal to multiple senses. So part of what's nice about the way that you do this is you situate the appeal to facts, specifically through statistics, as something that good argument effectively contextualizes, and effectively contextualizes by appealing to multiple senses, appealing to the audience as whole people. And I'd like to know more. What do you see as the criteria for determining which bits of reality, which statistics, which facts, which pieces of evidence, etc., can appropriately be brought to bear? Is that just based on what an audience will find relatable? Does it matter whether it's misleading or not? Is truthfulness important here or not? If so, why? And how does that affect all this? If not, why not? So I'm really wanting to push you to say more about what makes this good. So far, you're really talking about process, and that's what this piece focused on. But I want to push you to talk a little bit more about the concept, good argument. What makes some arguments good in your terms, and what makes them bad, or others bad, or less good. And I think it's nice so you end on this sort of open note where you're suggesting that ultimately, coming from leaving the door open, all that needs to really happen for an argument to be good is that the reader has been made more open to the main argument. And you say this is successful, this is good argument, because the reader then views your position as on a more factual basis than they did before. But if you're always only choosing some of the facts, isn't necessarily the case that the audience really views your argument on a more factual basis. Aren't they just viewing more of the facts that you think count? So I'd like to hear a little bit about how you'd address that kind of question or concern. By the way, pretenses should probably be premises or preconditions. So here, then, at the end, what starts to happen is we focus on good argument as effective argument, as creating a powerful speaker who can effectively persuade others to be open to different views. And so, this is what I take to be the core argument that you're making here about what good argument is good argument is powerful speech that effectively persuades others to be open to novel viewpoints, which I think is a perfectly fine definition of argument. But I want to see you trace it out a little bit more and say more about how that works. What makes that good? Why do you value that? So those are my sort of initial thoughts reading through here, or not initial, but second or third or fourth read through thoughts. And what I look forward to seeing you do as you move from the statement of belief to the next piece, to the defining good arguments in digital contexts essay, is really honing in on how your definition fits together as a single system and what your reasons are for seeing it the way that you do. And in other words, or I guess another way of saying that is, in what does the goodness, as you understand it, of good argument consist? And that may be about persuasiveness, but it may also have to navigate the question of ethics, even if it's an ethics of logicality or truthfulness. So to go back to one of my previous comments, how do we decide which of the infinitely many, available facts that might be germane or relevant, how do we decide which are good ones to bring to bear? Okay, fine, we use ones that are relatable. I think that's smart and interesting. But anything that's relatable, because that can be, as I mentioned, very misleading. So anyways, so that's just an example of the kind of way question that I think you can address that's going to help you make this more systematic moving forward. To be clear, my comments here are not comments that are like you're not doing what you should have done here. This is a great version of what this is. These are comments that I hope will be helpful as you move from this to the next thing, which is your rigorously worked out theory. I'm looking forward to reading that and to talking with you further as we go along. Please don't hesitate to to make an appointment, come see me in office hours about this or anything else. All right, thanks. Bye.